Hi everyone, I'm Jaime, nutritionist, registered dietitian, and Masters of Public Health. Welcome to my nutrition video series on optimal nutrition. In these 10 videos, you'll learn everything from optimal fats and carbs to sweets and treats that are still good for your health. Be sure to click on the links below. They'll provide you with summaries from each episode with all the nutrition advice that you can use for your healthy lifestyle. So let's get started. Today's episode is all about optimal sweetness. So you'll often hear people say, sugar is evil, stay away from sugar. And I'll have to say this, having sweetness in your life is kind of, it's essential really to enjoying your food. However, sugar, the refined white stuff or the syrupy corn syrup stuff is evil and it's not good for your health, your well-being, your immunity. But I'm going to give you alternatives today to make sure that you still have sweetness in your life. You can indulge that sweet tooth in a healthy and obviously moderated way. So some of my favorite sweeteners I brought today to talk to you about are sitting over here, and I'm just going to give you a little introduction in terms of how it's best to use them and why they're actually relatively good for you. Starting with honey, raw honey. So don't look for the pasteurized stuff that's been heated too high and pretty much like a corn syrup. You want to look for raw, non-pasteurized honey. Now, if you're immune compromised and there are some issues around that, talk to your doctor first about having raw honey. But if you're healthy and you want to incorporate a lovely sweetener into your diet, honey is amazing for so many reasons, not to mention it being antibacterial, antifungal, antimicrobial, so that's helpful in your body. But it's just a wonderful, mild sweetener to add to anything from smoothies to teas to raw desserts. I don't like to heat this, so this isn't optimal for heating because you lose its benefits, but it's amazing for raw sweetness and raw desserts. Dates are another one of kind of nature's wonderful sweeteners. I love dates. I love dates because they're literally like jewels of candy. They're concentrated sweetness. These are medjool dates. Medjool dates are particularly sweet. They're almost like a caramel, and they're amazing for, again, a raw dessert, for putting into a smoothie to naturally sweeten, or just to literally pop it like candy and eat as is. Obviously, you'll want to remove the pit if you do so. Also, they're wonderful to cook down and make into a puree and used in baked goods. So they're an excellent source of sweetness with their own nutritional properties in these little jewels. So stock up on medjool dates. Coconut syrup, as actually I have the stickiness on my hand right now, is a very thick, syrupy nectar from the coconut palm. And it's an amazing source of prebiotics, It has its own enzymes intact, so it's really helpful for digestion as well. It's ideal for raw or cooking, so it's a great alternative for a corn syrup or anything that you need a liquid syrup in. You can also buy coconut syrup in a powdered, in the sugar form, in the crystallized form. So it's good to replace any recipe that calls for white sugar. You could swap in for coconut sugar. So stock up on this stuff. It's really good, really beneficial for your health, and a good quality sweetener. Molasses is very thick, very rich, not ideal for a whole recipe in terms of swapping out sugar for molasses. You want to use it in small doses, but it comes with a whole host of nutrients that are not only surprising to find in sugar, but they're really health promoting, like iron and calcium. So if you can find ways to sneak molasses into your diet, it's actually a sweet treat, not only just for your taste buds, but also for your health. I love to drizzle it on top of oatmeal. It's perfect for that. Ripe bananas, they're really ugly. They're almost like, what do you do with them without just making banana bread? You can do tons of stuff with them. They're an amazing sweetener to add not only into a baked good, but you can also get creative with them and use them almost as like an egg replacement in certain recipes where they add that thickness that an egg would do, a binding agent, but also act as a natural sweetener. So I love ripe bananas, not only just for banana bread, but for a bunch of different recipes. So get creative with your ripe bananas and use them as a natural sweetener as well. Cinnamon. So cinnamon, although it does have a little bit of sweetness to it, the reason why I'm including it in the optimal sweetness recipe is because it actually helps to stabilize your blood sugars. So even though I'm talking about all these sweeteners and how wonderful they are to incorporate in your diet, you still have to eat sweets in moderation, not, all the time. And if you have an overactive sweet tooth, you should do your best to curb that and see why you're always craving sweets. There could be underlying reasons for that, but a sweet every now and then is totally fine. But if you want to incorporate cinnamon with it, whether when you're baking or just eating, let's say, something sweet and then putting cinnamon as part of the sprinkle on top, it's perfect for balancing those blood sugars. So when you are indulging your sweet tooth, your blood sugars aren't spiking so high and then coming to a crash. This will help kind of keep it even keel, and it also adds an amazing flavor with the delicious flavor of cinnamon spice. So I wanted to show you a way of how you can incorporate these natural sweeteners into your life and have a dessert with it. It's gonna feature my favorite sweetener, which I didn't talk about here. It's featuring maple syrup, and it's very quick, very easy, something that you can whip up if you have a few things stocked in your pantry and a few ripe avocados. So the base of this recipe, well, it's actually a chocolate avocado pudding, and the base of the recipe, of course, is avocados. You want to get a nice ripe avocado, and because you want it to have that creamy mouthfeel. Now, I have 2 avocados here. The sizings will vary. I'll provide, as I've mentioned before, there will be downloadable links for these videos with recipes. So I'm not doing the measurements exact here, but because these avocados are small, if you were gonna make this recipe for 2 people, you would use 2 small avocados. Today we're just gonna make a quick one size portion. So what you would do is you just scoop out the avocado. I'm gonna take the easier route and take the ones that don't have the pit in it. If you do have the pit in it, the best way is to take a sharp knife and cut into the pit and yank it out that way. But for easiness right now, we're just gonna scoop out these sides. So that's the base of this chocolate avocado pudding. I know it seems weird to associate avocado with this. Avocado is actually a fruit, so I know we're used to thinking of it in savory dishes, but it works really well in sweets and in desserts. So it's a really great substitute when you're making healthy cooking and baking. Now, the next ingredient is coconut milk. You want to find a good quality canned coconut milk. That means something that's organic, something that ideally, if the can isn't lined in BPA, it's rare to find that, but no added sugar, and this one is even fair trade. So it's nice to know that you can find good quality ingredients like that. So I'm just gonna put in some coconut milk, and actually I kept this in the fridge the night before. So what happens is the coconut milk solidifies and you get this really creamy coconut milk, and the liquid just sits at the bottom. So this really helps for making a thick pudding when you firm it up in the fridge the night before. So I put 2 heaping tablespoons. Again, I'll post recipes at the end with more accurate measurements. The bottom line is what's happening here is it's getting really creamy with the avocado and the coconut oil, the coconut milk. And next we're adding the star of the show in terms of sweetness. We're using maple syrup. I love how the maple goes with this as well. Maple syrup is one of those sweeteners that again come with a host of minerals and good quality kind of components to a sweetener, which is really nice and you don't find in a refined processed sugar. So if you can get a hold of your local maple syrup guy, I know that sounds funny, but actually here in Ontario, I just contact people who have maple farms and I buy it in bulk. If you don't live in a place that has that option, no problem, just buy it at the grocery store. So I'm gonna put, given the size here, I'm gonna put 2 tablespoons, or maybe actually, yeah, I'm gonna do 2 tablespoons. You know, it varies just depending on your sweet tooth and how sweet you want it, or if you're gonna add any toppings. So 2 tablespoons went in, and last but not least, what makes this so creamy, so chocolatey, is using cocoa powder. So I'm just gonna eyeball a little bit in here. A good quality cocoa powder, you actually want a raw cocoa powder. It's also known as cacao. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but it's perfect in the sense that it gives a chocolatey flavor. However, it also lends itself with its nutrients. Chocolate is incredibly rich in antioxidants, phytonutrients, and is really health promoting when you get a good quality cacao. So I just poured some in, and that's really the base of the pudding. Just gonna blend it up now. You wanna put it in your food processor and put it on a setting that is pretty high so it whisks it and emulsifies it all together and becomes a thick, creamy pudding. So I'm just gonna do that now. After probably another minute, it will be at the perfect pudding consistency, but you can see that it's starting to come together like a beautiful pudding. I mean, I shouldn't say beautiful. Puddings are actually not the most attractive looking dessert, but they do taste amazing. And after a minute or so more of whirling this up, you'll have a beautiful pudding that you can let sit in the fridge, or you can have it as is. I like it sitting in the fridge. It firms up a little bit, gets really cold, and then you can kind of get creative with the pudding and add toppings. For example, goji berries or cacao nibs. These are chocolate nibs. And something like a goji berry is a dried fruit. So again, that's a nice natural sweetener. So to keep your pantry stocked with sweetened, or I should say unsweetened, but dried fruit that add extra sweetness naturally. That's a great idea. So goji berries and some cacao sprinkles, and you will have yourself a perfect dessert to satisfy your sweet tooth naturally. I hope you enjoyed this episode of my Optimal Nutrition video series. Don't forget to click on the links below. I'm Jaime Slavin. Thanks so much for watching.